The sheeple.
Greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We're coming at you today because we
have the footage.
We have some footage, and so we're going to go over some Hunter Biden stuff this morning and all this demonic rats and the demo crazy. How's everybody doing today? We got John and Danielle with us. How you doing, guys?
Doing great, Keith. And thanks for showing us the sheeple.
Yeah. we got to realize there's a lot of them out there, and we're going to see some of them today. And we're going to see some people that are spitting some truth as well up there in the Congress, Senate Oversight Committee. And we've got the Democrats, as I call them, in their demo crazy, showing exactly what I'm talking about. These people are just insane. So we're going to take a look at some Hunter Biden footage from Congress. If I get it here. Give me just a second. Okay, where are we at? And they literally titled this one, "You're Acting Like Cult Members."
Of course.
Flash. So let's take a listen to this and see what we're talking about with these demonic rats and their demo crazy. See how they demonstrate the insanity that we're thinking about in these political realms.
With that, I will yield the balance of my time to my ranking member.
Ms. Brown, thank you so much. You started off by saying something pretty profound, which is we are here instead of doing the business of the American people because the Republicans have offered us no positive agenda in their year in office. We know we've wasted countless weeks in them just trying to pick a speaker. And we've wasted countless weeks with their inertia and their do-nothing policies. But Ms. Brown, I don't know if you recall, I just don't want people having to take your word for it. On the floor of the House, complaining about the fact that they have no agenda. I think our colleague Chip Roy from Texas said that the Republicans had not given him one thing, a single thing. I remember him saying to campaign on. So I just want to ask you, when you're saying that they have no agenda, that's not a partisan point. You're getting that from Republicans, aren't you?
That is correct.
One of our colleagues said that.
I mean, I'm part of it.
What?
This is my personal note. I'm in on the program. That's to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now
John, I'm going to mute you. So what we have here is we've got the Democrats talking about the Republicans not doing anything in relations to the political realm the last year at least. And in fact, what is happening is, in my eyes, again, just my opinion, the Republicans are laying back on pushing forward too much regulation because the Democrats are doing it prolifically. They're pushing everything they can. In case you haven't noticed the laws and stuff, they're pushing things through that are just amazing shit. And we have to realize that it's kind of like when Obama was in office and he was pushing all of those bills through. Just bill after bill after bill after bill. And this is getting ridiculous because, as you heard him talk in the beginning, we're not about we're not here for American business. We're here to discuss other things. Yet here we are talking about the American business, and it is, in fact, the thing that's talked about many times here recently is that the two political party are just working towards the same goal. The distinction here is that when you start charging each other and accusing each other, just like we do on these panels and stuff. So we got to watch some of this stuff and realize that it's a character trait that we carry throughout our entire life. I mean, look at this guy on the bench. You think he's a really good guy if he's standing up here doing all of this lying? We're going to listen to a lot of these lies, and I'm going to point out the cowardice of Hunter Biden. I don't care who you are. If you're not a man enough to stand up to accusations, and instead you run, then probably those accusations are true, no matter how much hype has been given by any news media or anything.
There was Trump derangement syndrome. And of course, Trump derangement begins with Donald Trump himself. He thinks he has a legal right to assassinate U.S. citizens. He thinks he can grab women by their genitals, although that's not the word that he used. He said that if Joe Biden is reelected president, there will be World War II. He is obviously deranged.
World War II, he doesn't even know what he's speaking about. And I don't know that he said something like that, but the thing here is, again, they act like children in this arena. They act literally like children. These are the political leaders that are supposedly running this country. They ought to be ashamed.
But the real Trump derangement syndrome that I see is those people who cannot break from Donald Trump after he's proven himself to be completely and totally unworthy of your support.
Completely and totally unworthy of your support. You might want to think about that again. This is the only president in the history of our country here that took office without emoluments since they started paying for that office. Now, the forefathers did it based on that principle. But then when they set up that first initial Congress and Confederacy and everything, there was an emoluments that started coming in. So once our government was well seated and had a good quality structure, then all of a sudden people started taking emoluments and stuff, and that's when things, when people should have realized it's a corporatocracy.
Because I'm looking at talented, gifted people on the other side of the aisle, the ones who have not left Congress in frustration or because they've broken with Donald Trump and clashed with him. But I'm still looking at people who have their wits about them, I think, but you're acting like cult members, like you're sleeping on the basement of a cult, listening to tapes all night. And I beg you to get over your Trump derangement syndrome. Thank you very much for yielding, Ms. Brown.
Chair recognized.
Sound familiar? Does that sound like familiar rhetoric, guys? I mean, these people are bashing each other about their own opinions and misleading the American people on both sides. So don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to support Trump or Biden or anything. I've never been involved in political arenas. What I'm doing here is hopefully showing you how the insanity rages between both sides and how easy it is to tell the principal truth of what's actually going on.
Mr. Donalds from Florida for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. First, it was said in this hearing, Mr. Chairman, about you specifically, that you repeatedly said you would give Mr. Biden any opportunity. He could choose which one to come and speak in front of this committee. He could do it by deposition. He could do it by open hearing. It was up to him. The truth of the matter, though, is that the chairman's words are not binding. Like no other member's words of Congress are really not binding.
Pay attention here. What he's telling you, your words are not binding in Congress. Yet the scripture says a man is bound by his words. What binds them then? What binds those words? Pay attention.
Binding article.
Point of order. Does the chairman agree with that? Point of order.
Does
the chairman agree?
Are you going to restore my
point
time?
Of order. Just point of order.
Okay.
Does the chairman agree that the chairman's words are not binding on the committee?
That's not a point of order. It has nothing to do with the order of this hearing. Thank you. Can I go back to 4 minutes and 34 seconds? That's where I was before I was interrupted by Mr. Raskin.
Yes, reset the clock.
Thank you. What is binding is the actual written document, the written language in the subpoena, because a subpoena from this committee is also signed off on by the clerk of the House.
Did you hear that, folks?
By the clerk.
Correct. Everything in this world, I don't care if you think you've got a governor or not, their words are not bound unless they're contracted. Everything must be contract. That's the House of Representatives who does that. The clerk of the House of Representatives is the one that signs off to seal those documents as true and factual. Now, the Senate Oversight Committee is what we're looking at here, and they're the ones that come back for impeachments and treasons and sedition and stuff because of the breach of those contracts. Okay, and that's what we're talking about here. They're doing a inquiry into Hunter Biden because there's a possible impeachment. There's an impeachment inquiry going on, and so they're inquiring into Hunter Biden because the impeachment inquiry has to do with President Biden. And it's because Hunter Biden got caught doing things that he may or may not have, should or should not have been doing, and because he's the president's son while in presidency. You know? So we have to think about this stuff and realize this is all about commerce, every last bit of it, and it has to be contracted. Like I said yesterday, everything is a contract.
That is the binding document that matters here. That is what governs. That's number one. Number two,
that is the binding document that governs. Okay?
Was said in this hearing. It was said that our witnesses said that there was no basis for an impeachment. But remember, members on the Democrat side of the aisle, what was said by Mr. Turley at the time was that there was plenty of evidence for the continuation of an impeachment inquiry. And the purpose of that hearing was the relevance basis for an impeachment inquiry. The House has now voted for an impeachment inquiry. And one of the first things that the House did after the vote of an impeachment inquiry was to subpoena Hunter Biden to appear. Hunter Biden has evaded that subpoena. So flagrantly did he evade it that he decided to show up at the Senate side to give a press conference, and Eric Swalwell, a member of the House, helped him get that time on the Senate side to give a press conference. That's a flagrant violation of a congressional subpoena. Secondarily, he has the gall to show up here when we're actually discussing contempt. And he didn't stay. He was sitting right over there. He's not here now. He said he wants.
Yeah, we're going to show you a couple videos from earlier, too, after we get talking about some definitions. But that's exactly what happened, evidently. Hunter Biden showed up, was given political time at the post, and made it seem like there's nothing wrong, and he's in the middle of a contempt situation, and he shows up because, of course, he was invited to, which, you know, what I spoke on earlier, if you walk out, shows you're a coward and stuff. He showed up trying to placate that he was doing nothing wrong, and that he had his time before the podium to speak and everything. And somehow, though, when things started getting tight, oh yeah, then he ran.
Wants to talk. He could have stayed through the whole proceeding. He chose to leave. That's his business. But he was subpoenaed to come here back in December. He chose not to of his own volition. He's in violation of that subpoena, a subpoena that was executed with the signature of the clerk of the House of Representatives. That
making it a binding contract against the House of with the House of Representatives and the Senate, not necessarily Hunter Biden. However, the Hunter Biden they're talking about is the person, and so they subpoenaed the paperwork, which is what he's supposed to testify to, and that means it includes Hunter himself. It's how those subpoenas work, and we're going to go over some those definitions of subpoena. You'd be surprised, again, what I've been telling everybody. You live in a world of babble, so we're going to go over something. Let's finish this up.
Is the document that is binding. That's what we work off of. Mr. Chairman, I actually want to submit for the record an article from The Hill written by Jonathan Turley, and it is titled Eric Swalwell and the Politics of Contempt.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you. I'm glad something got admitted to the record. Last, a couple other points. One quick point I want to make, and this is in reference to the minorities' report about this $7.8 million. I want the minority to understand one very important distinction between Presidents Biden and President Trump. President Trump has an international real estate portfolio that he has amassed over decades. I'm quite sure if you go back through all of the hotel receipts before he was president of the United States, that you had foreign dignitaries staying at Trump hotels all across the world.
Will the gentleman yield?
I'm not going to yield, Mr. Raskin. I'm making a point because they're actually very nice hotels. They look good. People like staying there. President Trump was not running the Trump organization when he was president of the United States. To my recollection.
You hear that? President Trump wasn't running the Trump organization while he was president. He had somebody else running the stuff. And he was doing things appropriately by doing so. You're not supposed to fill two offices. And by the 14th Amendment, you're actually an officer of the United States. So if he was playing an officer as a resident and an officer as the president, it'd be kind of contradictory, don't you think? The guy's a little bit smarter than the average bear, I think. And that's what we're talking about. He took office, didn't take the emoluments. So he was concerned about the business of the people, so much so that he put his businesses in the hands of somebody else that he trusted, so that the people that trusted him, he could do business for.
Election, Eric Trump, the president's son, was actually running the Trump organization when President Trump was president of the United States. So if he had a portfolio of hotels and people choose, through Expedia, through Kayak, through hotels.com, if they choose to go and stay there, how is that the president being in violation of what the emoluments clause? That's what you're citing? Stop.
See, and that's what they're talking about here. If President Biden is taking emoluments and his son is involved in an investment scheme with the Chinese Communist Party, and it leads to the supposed pocket filling of Joe Biden as president, and he's making investments with communists behind the backs of the people, that is technically trading with an enemy.
Like the Clintons.
Ladies and gentlemen, America,
Yes.
This is ridiculous. The Biden family has no business. They've never had a business except for politics.
And this makes a very good point here, too. The Bidens have never had a business. They've always been involved in politics, whereas Trump, who came from a family, and get this, it was Frank Trump and John Trump, and they were involved in politics, but they were also involved in real estate. The family's been involved in everything. So they're well-rounded in education and abilities in various different venues. Whereas Biden's have been nothing but crack, whores, and politics. Excuse my language.
Politics. And the one thing that the Oversight Committee, in conjunction with the Ways and Means Committee and in conjunction with the Judiciary Committee, has always been able to demonstrate is that they shook down foreign nations for millions. 26 million at the latest count and growing. Millions. And there was never any business entity involved except public corruption and a pay.
And this is where the Democrats try to say, well, President Trump did the same thing. That's why we didn't want him in office. No, President Trump didn't do the same thing. Like the man just said a little bit ago, all the Trump towers and hotels and stuff that foreign emirates visited and stuff, and all the millions he made on that was all private, and it was done aside from his presidency. It had nothing to do with his presidency. It wasn't involved with any kind of enticement or investments of the people. Those are all private, and he kept them private. It had nothing to do with the national business. Whereas Joe Biden, with his son over there in the communist China, making investment deals with those leaders, and the things that have evidently gone on that I'm going to speak about. We'll find out about this stuff in the years to come. But it's plain and concise that they're accusing President Trump of the exact thing that seems to be going on in this current presidency and the Biden family.
For play scheme. The House Oversight Committee would like to get to the bottom of this under the impeachment inquiry of the House. We have questions for Hunter Biden. We issued a subpoena for him to answer said questions. He ignored a congressional subpoena as a private citizen. There are many attorneys on the other side of the aisle. If you had one of your clients in your private practice ignore a congressional subpoena as a private citizen, you would advise them not to, because they would be held in contempt and they would actually.
And that's exactly what we're talking about. And the special treatment of political figures with the concept that they get away with this kind of stuff, whereas the common people don't. You know, the rule is for thee, but not for me. You know, we make the rules for thee, but not for you, but not for us. This is all bullshit, and we have to realize that these people are not in this political realm for the interest of anybody but themselves, their popularity, and their wallets. When you realize that and you quit voting and start concentrating on how to develop yourself and your family structure and make sure that that's solid and built in good faith, then this country might be better off.
Be punished by the Department of Justice. So I find that interesting.
Will the
to see
gentleman
today.
yield so I
I'm
can
not going to
respond?
yield, Mr. Goldman, because I had a question for you earlier. You didn't want to take my question, so I'm not going to take yours. Thank you. So, in closing, I will say, private citizens, yes, they have a responsibility to answer congressional subpoenas. They do. Hunter Biden had it, and he was flagrant. He decided to give a press conference. So we're going to do this business, and he should be held in contempt by the full House of Representatives. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Chair now recognizes Ms. Norton from Washington, D.C. for 5 minutes.
I yield my 5 minutes to Mr. Raskin.
I'd like to thank the distinguished delegate from the District of Columbia, and I need to correct the record because of several false statements made about the Foreign Emoluments Clause, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8, although I do appreciate the gentleman from Florida's attempt to at least engage on the matter of substance that was raised so powerfully by Ms. Crockett. Now, let's start with this. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8 says that neither the president nor any member of Congress can receive a present, an emolument, which means a payment, an office or a title from a prince, a king, a foreign government, quote, Mr. Donald, of any kind, whatever.
Foreign government. So as a United States, it's not even a government. It's a corporation. So it's foreign from the government of the United States. Again, folks, the government of the United States, pursuant to the Constitution, even the last Constitution that we had, is a republic form of government. Yet everybody believes that we're operating on a democracy, and yet it's nothing but capitalism. Okay? So it is foreign. And again, federal government means all entities, meaning corporations of the government of the United States. So the federal government is all the corporations of the government of the United States. So the United States itself is a corporation. The federal government is all of the entities in competitive contracting. Understand that, including the United States Postal Service as the registered agent for those contracts and the Postal Regulatory Commission putting out the commercial values.
Of any kind, whatever, without going to Congress first and obtaining the consent of Congress. There's no hotel exception, Mr. Donald, to the Foreign Emoluments Clause. There's no international real estate syndicate exception to the Foreign Emoluments Clause, Mr. Donald.
That's because it's not involved in the emoluments. Private business is not public business. When these people up here on these benches try to push public trumps private business as if though it's public business for the people, that's false. This guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, or he's doing it on purpose to try to dissuade the people or confuse them to believe something that's not true. You cannot consider being paid for private contracting issues as a public emolument, period.
And also, I will take you up on your challenge to see whether the Trump Hotel in Washington, the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas, the Trump Hotel on Fifth Avenue, the Trump Hotel at UN Plaza, the 4 of the more than 500 businesses that we got documentation for, whether they actually had the same level of business coming from Saudi Arabia, the
Again, conflating that his private business is somehow a violation by dealing with foreign governments. No, you're allowed to trade with foreign governments so long as the contracts are viable and they're known about. Okay? So as a public accommodator in his public motels and hotels and all of that, it's well known that he not only goes over to other foreign countries, but other members of other foreign countries come over here and do business with him in his hotels and stuff and casinos and stuff, as well as many other Americans doing business with the same people. But they keep it separate from the government and the publicity of the political realm.
Communist bureaucrats of China, who were the leading spender, as you know, if you've read our report, the United Arab Emirates, Indonesia, India, Egypt, and so on. We will make that comparison about what was done before if you get the chairman to call off the ban on further documents coming from Mazars. So
Have you ever stayed at the Trump Hotel, Mr. Raskin?
Excuse no, and I never would stay at a Trump hotel. I've got too much self-respect and
stay at
concern
bad
for
hotels.
hygiene. So, but in any event, Mr. Donald, you're totally wrong about
hear
what
that,
the Foreign
Dig?
Emoluments Clause stands for. Abraham Lincoln
You stay
was
at
given
bad
2
motels?
elephant tusks by the King of Siam during the Civil War, and he liked them very much. He wanted to keep them, but he went to Congress, which is what every other president did before and every president did since, right up until Donald Trump. And he asked whether he could keep the tusks. And Congress, though they loved Honest Abe, said, no, you can't keep them. I mean, John F. Kennedy was offered citizenship by the people of Ireland because they loved him so much. And he refused to take it, saying that even though it didn't violate the letter of the Emoluments Clause, it violated the spirit of the Emoluments Clause. And Donald Trump converted the presidency.
You hear what he just said there? He was talking about the 2 different aspects of law, the letter of law and the spirit of the law. And if you're going to keep going by the letter of the law, that's the contract. If you want to enter equity, you've got to go by the spirit of the law. Just a little note there for you folks.
Into an instrument for self-enrichment. He raked in millions of dollars from the most corrupt governments on earth, who came in with specific favors that we document in our report that they got from Donald Trump. I beseech my colleagues, I will read any
that they got from Donald Trump. What did Donald Trump receive? And was it while he was in office? Was it for office? Was it for the people? If anything, again, remember, this is the man that didn't take emoluments while he was in office. And here we have a guy complaining about the millions of dollars that he's made throughout his lifetime, even though he's gone through 7 bankruptcies, made millions of dollars in real estate and other business transactions, went bankrupt, made millions of dollars again, went bankrupt, made millions of dollars again and again and again. I don't see what's wrong with that, especially on the private side.
Book, any magazine, any speech you've given that you want me to read this report and come back and tell me if you think Donald Trump did the right thing in converting the White House into a for-profit operation. No other president in American history.
No, wait a minute. You mean he just said that President Trump turned the White House into a for-profit? You mean the United States is no longer in debt? The fuck is this babbling idiot talking about? It's amazing. And of course, this is the report they wrote, and therefore it's truthful. So you got to read the report. Don't use your own discernment. Read their report. That'll get you the truth. I don't understand this shit at all, folks. And this is what people scream for. They want leaders that, the scripture tells us you will beg for kings. And here we are, 2023. We're still begging for kings because we still ain't learned it. Come on.
History's come anywhere close. And you ask why he's so determined to stay in office that he would unleash violence against his own vice president, the brother of your colleague, of our colleague. Why would he do that? It's because it was a money-making operation, and it was It was a great business grift for a guy who went bankrupt several times.
A great grift for a guy who went bankrupt several times. No, the guy went bankrupt 7 times, and every time he went bankrupt, that's just proof that he knows what the fuck he's doing when it comes to making money.
And yet, out of some misguided partisan loyalty, you're going to stick with him. I don't even know why you stick with him. He was a Democrat longer than he was a Republican. He wanted to run for president on the Reform Party. You guys have been taken over by an absolute con man. And now you're acting like members of a religious cult who don't even remember how you got in the first place. We say return the profits, Donald Trump. $7.8 million. I got a letter, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to share with you.
Return the profits, $7.8 million. Meantime, the United States now is $26 trillion in debt. And they want President Trump to return $7.8 million that never came from any American. They're claiming that it's all foreign money that he made, $7.8 million, from his private investments, and now he's trying to tell Trump to give it back, as if though Trump is going to give it back to the United States. If Trump needs to give it back to anybody, it would go back to the people that invested, because it wasn't the United States.
Right.
It's amazing how these people think.
Telling Donald Trump to return these $7.8 million. It's a small fraction of what he raked in. We want to know about the other 2 years in office. We want to know about the other businesses, not just those 4 that we were able to get information on. And we want to know about every country on earth, not just the 20 autocracies and dictatorships that we found. This is our government. This is our Constitution. And we're going to stand up for it against Donald Trump and anybody who follows him to the path of oblivion. Abraham Lincoln started your party as a third party to replace the Whigs because they wouldn't take a moral stand against slavery. It was a pro-freedom, anti-slavery, pro-union, pro-honesty party. And your party has been reduced to a corrupt, authoritarian cult of personality. And everybody does whatever Donald Trump tells them to do, which is what we're doing here today with this stupid attempt to hold Hunter Biden in contempt when he has come forward to say he will testify and give you everything you want, as the chairman of the committee repeatedly offered in public.
And we all know that's bullshit, because like I said, the one guy admitted earlier that he walked out. He came in to play a marketing scheme of trying to save his little personality and all that, and then turned around and when he got confronted by a woman, no less, he turned around and ran. So let's take a look at a couple definitions here, because what we're talking about is that Babble, and I want people to understand that the English language is so twisted and converted and perverted, it's pathetic. You have to realize this, and we're going to see this in a couple definitions here today. Subpoena. Subpoena, S-U-B-P-O-E-N-A. S-U-B-P-O-E-N-A. A subpoena is a written order to compel an individual to give testimony on a particular subject, often before a court, but sometimes in other proceedings, such as a congressional inquiry. Okay? Failure to comply with such an order to appear may be punishable as contempt. The rules controlling subpoenas in federal matters are found in Rule 17 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure and Rule 45 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. A subpoena can be more formally referred to as a subpoena ad testificandum, a subpoena to testify. Subpoena, to testify. Let's look at the next one. Oops. What's going on here, folks? Do you suppose the omission of an O means there's a difference in the definition? Subpoena is a court order that requires a person to appear before a court and testify or, pay attention folks, or produce specified evidence. Oops. A person who receives a subpoena but fails to comply with it may be charged with contempt of court and be subjected to civil or criminal proceedings. This case from North Carolina explains that a subpoena is a writ or order commanding a person to appear before a court, subject to a penalty for failing to comply. A subpoena must be served on the person ordered to appear. In some states, a law enforcement officer personally has to serve it, whereas other states allow it to be served by mail or telephone call. And again, the rules controlling subpoenas in federal matters are found in Rule 17 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure and Rule 5 or 45 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. See also Subpoena Ducis Tecum. Subpoena Ducis Tecum means bring forth the record, I believe.
It's like they're Nazis, Keith. Like they're a whole bunch of Nazis, you know?
Right. Exactly. And so they're Hitler's willing executioners. They're a bunch of dummies, don't know what the fuck they're doing because they don't do their research like I do. Subpoena Ducis Tecum. Notice it's subpoena, not with the O. And it says Subpoena Ducis Tecum means a subpoena for the production of evidence, which requires the witness produce documents, records, or other tangible objects for examination at a trial or hearing. So you see the difference there? One is asking for somebody to come forth and make their bold statements in front of people in a court setting so that they can be transcribed into paperwork. Whereas the other one is telling you to bring forth physical evidence into the court as a matter of being paperwork that's already there or physical evidence of some sort. So there's a distinct difference in those terms, and that's why I do this stuff. We have to learn the differences because they will say subpoena, and if you don't know what subpoena they're talking about, it's because you haven't done your research to see that there's two different subpoenas. So you have to pay very close attention. And so when they tell me that they're going to give me a subpoena to come forth with certain information, and they try to spell it with an O, I'm going to have to correct them. You're not talking about a subpoena testafinicum. You're talking about a subpoena ducis tecum, which are two different things. If you're not asking for a subpoena with an O in it, I'm not coming in. If you're asking for a subpoena with just the E, I'm going to give you the person. The person will appear right before your eyes, and it'll be through the mail by the proper registered agent. So, and yes, it is word gymnastics. Oops.
And only an officer of the court can be held in contempt, Keith.
Absolutely, and that's that 14th Amendment. You guys got to understand that 14th Amendment means that you're an officer. It's a military construct, and as an officer, you're required without your consent to carry an identification. Once you are done with your military office, you're free. You're at liberty. You're no longer on duty. So let's take a look at the next one. The next one is relevant because of the way they structure their political venues and zones. It's called gerrymandering. Gerrymandering occurs when a political or electoral districts are drawn with the purpose of giving one political group an advantage over another. This practice often results in districts with bizarre or strange shapes. they're talking about on a map here. Okay. The term gerrymander takes its name from a political cartoon first published in the Boston Gazette in 1813 and is also occasionally referred to as a political gerrymandering or jurisdictional gerrymandering. Okay. And that's what they're doing here in the government setup. They're doing a jurisdictional gerrymandering. They're trying to, through their various different words and arguments and the insane language that they're using, trying to distract from the actual issue, which is treason and sedition by Joe Biden. Due to its influence over politics and anti-democratic nature, the practice of gerrymandering remains controversial. In 2019, as the Supreme Court ruled in Ruckel versus Common Cause, that allegations of political gerrymandering are not justiciable and can therefore not be challenged in federal court. However, as seen in Cooper versus Harris in 2017, a gerrymandering districts based on a racial makeup violates the Voting Rights Act and is therefore illegal and justiciable. So what we're talking about here is the fact that what Joe Biden and Hunter Biden are doing is justiciable as far as gerrymandering in forming some kind of political jurisdiction. How do we know this? Because it's directly involved with politics. Directly involved with politics, and therefore it is a political gerrymandering of trying to get change the zone and include somebody from China underlying in some hidden paperwork or something that one day they might have to bring forth through a subpoena ducis tecum after they get Hunter Biden under the subpoena testificandum. So they got to get him in there to testify first to get some information to find out if there's underlying documents that they can then subpoena ducis tecum. It's a process. And this is what they're trying to do is keep people from learning this process. And we've got to realize if we don't learn this stuff, they're going to use it against us in every venue. And sooner or later, it's going to get so bad that we're not going to recognize these kind of events. We're just going to say, oh, well, that's just the way it is. That's not the way it's supposed to be, and we should know better. What do you guys think?
Well, it began under Jerry himself. But what Biden's doing is twisting foreign money into our country.
Well, and he's doing it at the expense of the people for lining his own pockets. And I'll point out, you got to the situation in Hawaii there where they had all those people that lost all their homes and lives and everything. And guess what they did? Here's $700. The fuck is that? You're sitting here in office in Congress and Senate talking about millions of dollars while the United States is trillions of dollars in debt, and you're going to give them $700. It's fucking sickening. You're muted, brother.
Yeah. I mean,
nope. Still not working.
The longer this goes on, the worse it gets, Keith. The people have got to become more aware. You're doing your job. It's got to get up.
Yep.
This shit has to stop. I can't believe it.
Let me see if I can help you here. Yeah, your edit mic settings isn't coming through, so you'll have to drop out and come back up. Oh, there we go. Try it again.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Nope.
Okay.
I can hear you. I can hear John. I'm talking about Danielle here. Danielle was trying to speak, and we're not hearing him. We hear you fine, John. Nope. You'll have to go out and come back, brother. We'll see you soon. In the meantime, we're going to take a look at the next video. This next video is just as good as the first one, if not a little bit. this is where Hunter gets confronted by one woman, and she just tears him up in what she says about him, and then before he gets before Nancy, or excuse me, before Marjorie Green gets to him, he gets up and walks out. So we're going to take a look at this next one where Nancy Mace is going to get on him about his or give everybody her opinion about Hunter Biden and what she thinks should happen.
With the subpoena, I
We
don't think
we
it's right.
we
Your
would have
time's expired.
we
Do
would have
any-
loved that.
Do
kind
any
of
other members
compliance.
wish to be heard?
Mr.
Chair
Chairman.
recognizes Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Danielle is back. Can we give her another shot?
Can you hear me?
We hear you. We hear you. Awesome. So
I was trying to say that they not only did they give them the 700, they also went behind their backs and did not inform them in any shape or form and bought all their land.
yes, I should have said something about that. Yeah, there's a big land grab when that happened, folks. All that land that the people lost, and we're talking about indigenous people that don't have the same kind of economical structure. Whether you believe it or not, Hawaii doesn't have the same economical structure family-wise. So a lot of those families, my sister lives down there, so I know a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. And the family structures down there are much like build a large house so that the entire family can live in it and stay there. We don't send our children off when they're 18 to go get another piece of property. We just keep everybody here. So when that property's gone and most of the family has died, guess what? They don't have money to fix it. So bigger investors come in and buy it, and they're screwed. And again, it's a knowledge base of how real estate works. Over there, they do things different than they do here on the mainland. Their real estate, yeah, they've got Americans that go over there and do the real estate, all good, everything in the big cities. But the majority of the people that live just in those smaller areas and stuff, I'm telling you, their real estate situation is much more like Taiwan. Again, like I said, a large family structure that lives in one home and doesn't ship their kids out to buy other properties. It's a homestead kind of situation. But once if it gets ruined by a flood or something like that, they're better off in their minds. Most of them is, go build somewhere else.
Actually, when it comes to the rural areas and whatnot, when the Queen signed the treaty and all that, it was written in law that land can only be bought and sold by the indigenous people unless there was a natural disaster that destroyed the entire land.
Right, and that's why I say it.
Corporations are able to buy it now because of that law, and that is where the whole conspiracy comes in, where it was done purposely or not.
Right, and that's because the laws of the United States for real estate in urban development, they have to be able to condemn the land of its natural use. So if by natural hazard of some sort, like in Lahaina, the fire went through and destroyed everything, including all the animals and the wildlife, then it was a natural condemnation, which allowed for then somebody to come in and buy it, purchase it commercially. And that's the violation. That's Leviticus 25, verse 23. The land shall not be sold forever. So even if somebody's not selling it, somebody comes in to buy it, so they pay what their purchase price to a government body. See, and it's a totally messed up system, folks. So let's listen to Nancy cheer up Hunter Biden.
Chairman Comer,
First of all, my first question is, who bribed Hunter Biden to be here today? That's my first question. Second question, you are the epitome of white privilege, coming into the Oversight Committee, spitting in our face, ignoring a congressional subpoena to be deposed. What are you afraid of? You have no balls to come up here and—
Mr. Chairman, point of inquiry.
Mr. Chairman,
The ladies recognize.
I'm not-
if the gentlelady wants to hear from
Point of inquiry. This is they try to do this a lot, folks. So listen how she responds, and they try to tear her up and get her off her point, but she does a very good job.
Hunter Biden. We can hear from him right now, Mr.
And
Chairman. Let's take a
the
vote and
president.
hear from
I'm
Hunter Biden.
speaking.
What are you
women
afraid
allowed
of?
to speak
Hold
in
on,
here?
hold on.
Why
Order.
are you guys not willing to let us
Are women
speak?
allowed to
Space.
speak in
All
here
right.
or no?
Okay.
Are women allowed to speak in here or no?
Order.
Because you keep interrupting me.
I'll interrupt the
You keep
chairman. I don't
interrupting.
know that he's a lady.
I think that that Hunter Biden should be arrested right here, right now, and go straight to jail. Our nation is founded on the rule of law.
Come
And the premise
Come
that the
on.
law applies equally to everyone, no matter what your last
Point of order,
name.
Mr. Chairman. Point
It
of order.
doesn't matter who you are.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Biggs over here.
Donald Trump Jr.
Biggs over here.
State your point, Mr. Biggs.
Yeah, my point of order is this. Are we going to continue on with this blatant interruption? This is absurd and inappropriate. I intend to give my statement. I don't intend to have anybody interrupted. I'm not going to interrupt your statements. I think you should have decorum and courtesy and don't act like a bunch of nimrods.
You just interrupted a woman.
And that's five.
I got permission.
Can we
I did.
agree? Everyone has
Mr.
5
Chairman,
minutes. Can we agree?
Point of order again. The assertion that I interrupted was absolutely false. That's typical of the gentleman who spoke it. I got permission to speak from the chairman. I spoke. I was interrupted yet again by the gentleman who doesn't choose to go through the chair and follow proper order. I encourage us. I think if we're going to have any respect at all, we need to have proper decorum.
Well said.
I find it really fascinating that he chose to use the word Nimrod, which means tyrants.
Yeah, absolutely. This guy is on it though, but this is what I speak about on those panels. You know, if you can't have the decorum to let a man speak, then it's not going to go too well. And this is just a matter of decency and respect in having Socratic debates. And if you can learn how to have a Socratic debates as adults, I guarantee you, even in government, your government will work much better. It's because we have children like this in full-grown bodies that we have to deal with this stuff, and it's pathetic.
Said.
I'd like to finish.
The rules are everyone's going to be recognized for 5 minutes. Anyone that wants to be recognized will be recognized for 5 minutes. Ms. Mace has 4 minutes and 13 seconds left. Chair recognizes Ms. Mace.
And that's going to be my new one. You know, I used to say City Hall, even City Hall gives you 3 minutes. Now I'm going to start saying even Senate Oversight Committee gives you 5 minutes.
It does not matter who you are, where you come from, or who your father is, or your last name. Yes, I'm looking at you, Hunter Biden, as I'm speaking to you. You are not above the law at all. The facts in this case are crystal clear. This committee used and issued a lawful subpoena to Hunter Biden, a critical witness in this committee's investigation into Biden family corruption. Hunter Biden and his lawyers did not claim privilege of any kind. And because clearly he has none. They didn't contest the legitimacy of our reasons for issuing the subpoena. No reasons, because they clearly are legitimate. And yet he refused to comply. Trump's family members, Don Trump Jr., he did not defy a congressional subpoena. He showed up multiple times for multiple depositions for several hours. In doing so, you know, Hunter Biden broke the law. He did so deliberately. You did so flagrantly. You showed up on the Hill, on the Senate side, the day of that congressional subpoena to defy it and spit in the face of this committee. That's what you did. The question the American people are asking us is, what is Hunter Biden so afraid of? Why can't you show up for a congressional deposition? You're here for a political stunt. This is just a PR stunt to you. This is just a game that you are playing with the American people. You're playing with.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wait to see his speech I'm not going to do that here today, but I'm going to take a look at this speech that he put before him to find out what he said. But I'm pretty sure, as I said earlier, I'm sure it's a political arena barker stand. He was trying to bark for himself and distract from the contempt and all this other bullshit that the American people have to deal with this President Joe Biden and his crackhead son out there whoring around.
With the truth, Hunter Biden was.
I can't imagine what the rest of the world looks upon America in the eyes of, and knowing that the president has a son that goes around smoking crack, and providing pornographic material in the presence of whores and everything. You know, which is worse? President Trump saying that women like being grabbed by the pussy, or Joe Biden and Hunter Biden out there taking in millions of dollars through investment schemes while hooking around and cracking out and everything. You know,
don't forget he's also a pedophile. He had a laptop of him having sex with the Asian children.
Yep. So, you know, the whole theater of it all is just, it's so engrossing sometimes. And like I said, I'm not a political guy. I've never voted, never registered to vote. I've never had any interest in it. So again, this isn't in relations to Democrat or Republican. It's in the political arena because it affects the people and the money system. And that's the main problem that we have. We've got to come out of her, and we've got to realize these people representing America or the United States, they're doing a very shitty job of it. And, you know, it's just a shame that we're in 2023 or 2024. I keep forgetting. We're in 2024 now. And it's just a shame that we have so many adults that will act exactly the same. I mean, this is an evil system of people that don't have any kind of righteousness or kindness in their heart. And it's sad.
Wasn't afraid to sell access to Joe Biden to the highest bidder when he was in elected office. He wasn't afraid to trade on the Biden brand, peddle influence, and share those ill-gotten gains with members of his family, including Joe Biden. He wasn't afraid to compromise the integrity of the presidency and vice presidency by involving Joe Biden in shady business deals with our foreign adversaries. But Hunter Biden, you were too afraid to show up for a deposition, and you still can't today. I believe that Hunter Biden should be held completely in contempt. I think he should be hauled off to jail right now, because it wasn't long ago, too, my friends on the other side of the aisle, that you are.
Did you see him look around to see what the look on other people's faces was when she said that? he had a concerned look on his face. Huh? What's everybody else think?
Also believed in the power of a congressional subpoena. Not long ago at all. You believed in holding those who refuse to comply with congressional subpoena accountable. And I stood with each and every one of you. I am the only member in this room today who has held a member of my own party in contempt of Congress for not showing up for a subpoena.
And she is. She's the only one. That's the only reason I like this gal. I didn't really know her before, but I did check it out, and she's the only one that's ever filed contempt against somebody that didn't show up for a subpoena, and it was for her own party member. So, you know, it just goes to show you that how much they renege on following a process to hold each other accountable. It's the only one that's ever done it. It's amazing how the American people think that somehow they're going to be able to hold their government officials accountable when this is the only lady that's ever done it. And it was for a mere contempt for not showing up for a subpoena. Think about that.
And I see nothing but complete hypocrisy on the other side of the aisle. The ranking member of this committee even so eloquently put it. The lesson is, please tell your children out there in America, if you get a subpoena to go before Congress, go. You have a legal responsibility to do so. So the hypocrisy is stunning. What are we to tell our children today? There's nothing the other side can say with a straight face. As the only member of this committee to vote to hold a member of contempt of my own party, Let me be clear. This should not be a partisan issue. If Congress issues a subpoena, you show up, period. This is not a responsibility we take lightly. It brings no joy for us to do this, but the president's son broke the law and must be held accountable in the same way anybody else would. I urge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to do so. And my last message to you, Hunter Biden, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
Will the gentlelady yield for a question? Will the gentlelady yield? Will my friend yield from South Carolina?
Sure.
I do want to commend the gentlelady who was the only Republican who stood up and voted to hold in contempt the Republican members of the House who blatantly and categorically refused to comply with subpoenas that came from the bipartisan January 6th.
Well, she did her job that day.
Oops. My apologies, folks. This guy is the only reason this guy is giving her kudos on this is because he's a Democrat himself that has the opportunity here to try to again placate that the Republican Party is the demonizer, when in fact we can see clearly that, you know, if the Democrats are trying to stand up for Hunter Biden and trying to shove aside the issues and everything, while I explained earlier, you know, these are the people that are shoving hundreds of bills through the Senate and everything in regards to things like, my God, we've got transgender and all this other shit going on, trying to placate that everybody has equal rights when those are false rights. You do not have a right to be a transgender and claim and tell everybody else that they have to call you by he, she, they, them pronouns and shit. I'll call you fucking bitch if you're a bitch. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to play these games, and I'm tired of these full-grown adults placating that other full-grown adults must play these same insane games. Let's get over it, people.
Committee. I would like to ask my friend, Ms. Mace from South Carolina, whether she's aware of all the case law which says that the committee has to engage in good faith interaction with the witnesses they've called, and they're supposed to arrive at a solution. And what do you think about the fact that the chairman on multiple occasions gave this witness the opportunity to come before the full committee and he agreed to that?
Yeah, he agreed to it, but watch what happens. And again, he came before the committee, like it was said earlier, as a promotional stunt to try to sway the people from believing that he had any corruption going on in his life, when we all know that's wrong. I mean, God, there's pornographic pictures of him and his dick and a crack pipe and everything. And we gotta realize these are the most horrid people that you should be putting in place of government. So we've really got to start discerning what's best for our next generations while we're 18. If you're going to go to that polling station and vote, you damn well better be thinking about your next generation, even at that age. You shouldn't come after you've already raised your family and you're 50 years old and getting up in your midlife and ready to retire here in a short few years. It should be well planned. It should be well planned. And that's the problem. That's the problem with this public education system.
Constitutional law background, you know exactly what that means, and he should have showed up. And because of your vote and because of your statements, you should be voting to hold this man in contempt of Congress today, right now, if you're going to be consistent on your own policies and your own words.
Gentlelady's time's expired. Chair recognizes Mr. Moskowitz for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see you after a long break. So I'm listening to the gentlelady from South Carolina about the witness being afraid to come in front of the committee. It's interesting. He's here. He doesn't seem to be too afraid.
No, he's here, and it's not in a deposition setting. It's on an invite as a promo, and watch what happens when things get harried and he doesn't want to sit there anymore. He gets up and leaves. That's a coward. If you're really there on an invite to speak against what's being said, and you speak first and give it as a promo, and then when people start talking bad about you, you get up and leave. I think that's one of the biggest fucking cowards there is. Excuse my language. And this Yahoo sitting there trying to stand up for the motherfucker. It's sick. It's sick.
In fact, for some reason, the chairman, who on multiple occasions invited the witness to come on TV, apparently the chairman wants to pretend like his statements on television or in interviews don't matter, but it.
And so it took him, as you see, that he admitted to, you witnessed it, and you can testify to it, that they made the invitation several times before he took him up on it.
It didn't happen once. It didn't happen twice. It happened multiple times. The chairman said the witness can choose whether to come to a deposition or to a public hearing.
And again, as we saw earlier with Byron in the first video, that is not so. The chairman can invite him, and he did so several times, and he told Hunter he could choose to do so. But once it was contemplated on paper and written down, and the clerk of the House signed it, there is no longer a choice. These are the kind of people that are running this country and trying to placate that kind of shit is real when it's not. There's a process. It's explained. It's written down. It's very comprehensible. And if you can't learn how to follow it, and you want to sit here and use your Babylonian communications, I'm going to do everything I can to help destroy your fucking dumb ass. Again, excuse my language. I hate these kind of things going on. It's not the people I hate. It's the things that they do, that we do to each other. I'm tired of it.
In front of the committee. The witness accepted the chairman's invitation. It just so happens the witness is here.
And I want to point out now, you notice they call us defendants. And I've told you there's a big difference between defendant and witness. Watch how much he says that word.
If the committee wants to hear from the witness and the chairman gave the witness that option.
And notice how he gives a slight pause after he says the witness. And he makes it very plain and clear, the witness. Each and every, it's almost like its own little phrase sitting in there with everything else that he says. So you hear that same little phrase there quite often. The witness, the witness.
Then the only folks that are afraid to hear from the witness with the American people watching are my friends on the other side of the aisle. I don't know if there's a proper motion, Mr. Chairman, but I'll make a motion. Let's vote. Let's take a vote. Who wants to hear from Hunter right now, today? Anyone? Come on.
Well, of course not, because it's not the right setting. It's not a deposition. It would be a promo card again. Unless you're under deposition, I don't want to hear a fucking thing you have to say, because then it's just your opinion. While you're under deposition, you're supposed to tell the truth to the facts. That's what I want to hear. I think that's what the rest of the American people want to hear. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, to start with the word subpoena, the word sub begins this whole process, Keith. That tells you right there where they're going. This whole it's an underworld, right? They just glorified it.
Yeah, and that's so they could all act like the mobsters and run around like they've got the popularity and the people behind them saying, yeah, you're a good man and we want you to do what you're doing and we're gonna support you in that. And that's the general consensus. And yet here we are, we get people that want to complain about the political system, but there's no accountability. That's the problem. They don't want to hold them accountable. They think that that Senate Oversight Committee is going to hold somebody accountable. And this is why I say, you know, if this gets too much worse, the people will rise up in arms. They will start hanging motherfuckers. It's happened time and again. There's not one government throughout the entire history of mankind that has ever survived. Period. They've all been overthrown. Every last one. So let's look at the next one. The last one. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she's going to, this is a wild one too. She's going to lay it down and be very succinct about it. And it gets kind of hairy here. So let's watch this and then we'll be done with it. Get some more
Excuse me, Hunter. Apparently you're afraid of my words.
Whoa! Oh.
Excuse me, Hunter. Apparently you're afraid of my words.
And there goes Hunter.
Oh.
This was after the Nancy Mace spoke, and then Marjorie Greene got the floor, and he couldn't handle it, so he got up and walked out.
I'd like to reclaim my time, Mr. Chairman.
Wow, that's too bad.
I think it's clear and obvious for everyone watching this hearing today that Hunter Biden is terrified of strong conservative Republican women because he can't even face my words as I was about to speak to him. What a coward. And this is also a coward that sat right here in front of Mickey Babbitt, Ashley Babbitt's mother, who was murdered on January 6th by Michael Byrd, the Capitol police officer. And you want to talk about a committee, a political sham? I'll totally disagree with you, Ms. Mace. That January 6th committee was not bipartisan. It was a complete setup to go after President Trump, go after Republicans, go after anyone that believes in free and fair elections, people that believe the Department of Justice should be fair and balanced, not a political weaponized department of the federal government that is targeting President Trump, his supporters, people that walked in the Capitol on January 6th, and now people that stood outside the Capitol. There's been no justice for Ashley Babbitt's family. Michael Byrd has never been charged with anything. He was let off and he was given a promotion and allowed to walk free. And Hunter Biden just walked out. That is an example.
And I'll remind you folks that they're saying that the people that walk into the Capitol are the ones that incited it all, and therefore they're going to hold them accountable for 30, 40 years or whatever. But the guy that actually killed the woman, goodness gracious, even being a part of it, as it seems to be, no consequences. No consequences. So we have a displacement of guilt by the Babbitt family, possibly, onto other people that were involved in January 6th that really had nothing to do with it. And that's the sad part. Again, it's a displacement of the blame. It's a displacement of the accountability. It's a displacement of the honor and integrity of the people. And it's done by a very small group of people. And like I said, 380 million people in this nation, and there's less than 1,500 government workers that are comprising this mechanism of things, and they're going to be very easily overcome. I don't care what kind of military you bring in. American people are better armed than the rest of the world put together. So I don't know what they're thinking. Trying to keep pushing people like this. Again, like I said, if they don't know the history that no government has ever survived, then they might be delusional. Just my opinion, folks.
Of not following the law. Hunter Biden thinks he's above the law. Don Jr., Eric Trump, Ivanka, Trump family members had to come in to Democrat subpoenas and be questioned by Democrats for over 8 hours, each of them. Hunter Biden runs away. Hunter Biden did not come when we subpoenaed him. He did not follow the law. And then one of our colleagues
helped him evade his subpoena by going and reserving a press conference for him on his behalf, helped him evade the subpoena, helped Hunter Biden break the law. Let's talk about.
And that's what they were talking about earlier with that subpoena. He was given an option. No, a subpoena is to come in and go through a deposition. And he was given an option to go up at a podium and make an announcement according to his pre-written speech that had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with the actual subpoena, period. Total evasion.
About his own father's words. President Joe Biden said in October 2021 that individuals who defy subpoenas from the January 6th House Select Committee should be prosecuted.
Prosecuted. Absolutely. But when it comes to his son, oh no, just let him walk out. Just let him do a promo. Fucking sick.
And the Justice Department indicted Steve Bannon for doing so in November 2021. Hunter Biden's father, the President of the United States, said that he should be prosecuted. Anyone that defies a subpoena should be prosecuted. Hunter Biden didn't show up for his subpoena. Hunter Biden showed up today to make a clown show of himself, to show that he is nothing but someone that will not obey the law, that wants to show up when he wants to, and sits here with a smug look on his face and runs away when it's my turn to talk. Not only is he a criminal, but he is a coward. Nothing but a coward. Let's talk about voting for things. We have members on this committee that are on record on their own Twitter accounts talking about people blowing off subpoenas on the January 6th committee that states the rule of law is stirring all over America. That's Representative Jamie Raskin right here. I'll enter this for the record. Representative Jamie Raskin. Steve Bannon has been convicted of acting in contempt of Congress. My argument with Rep. Gates is now settled. If subpoenaed, you show up and assert any privilege you think applies to specific questions, but you can't blow off the proceeding. He blew it off. Walking in today is too late. We have to hold Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress.
You there, Keith?
Oops. Somehow I've muted. This is a matter of, again, the law is for thee and not for me. And it's quite sick how these people think that the American people won't throw off a despotic government. This is blatant. This is treason. This is sedition by all those that are involved in letting him get away with it. And as you heard her, he was already called forth a subpoena to a deposition and ignored it. And this is later on at a congressional oversight as to how to go about further with the impeachment inquiry against Joe Biden because he didn't show up for the subpoena, and then he has the balls to show up for this very fucking congressional oversight and do a promo bit. It's sick.
Because
Very.
above the law, and neither is the President of the United States. And this committee has produced more evidence that any Democrat ever dreamed of having against President Trump and his family, while they constantly make up lies and attacks about the Trump family and President Trump. They make them up all day long. It's nothing but a political witch hunt. This committee has produced the evidence that Joe Biden has taken payments through his son, Hunter Biden, and all their dozens of fake LLCs. You can't buy a Biden product. You can't hire a Biden for a service unless you're a foreign country and you're asking and paying for political favors and political payouts. And that is exactly what the Biden brand is all about. We will hold Hunter Biden in contempt. And if the Democrats are not the hypocrites that they constantly display that they are, then they will vote for contempt of Congress because they voted for it on every other subpoena that didn't go through. And here's the last thing. You guys had your chance. If you wanted to hold people in contempt of Congress, you could have done it last Congress, but you didn't.
Nikki Haley.
Absolutely. You could have done it last session, but you didn't. And this is the thing that's going to out them. Like I said earlier, the Democrats, they're the cult. While they're sitting there accusing the Republicans of being culted up, it's the Democrats that are the cult. It's the Democrats that are passing all these laws of homosexuality and transgender education in the schools and pornography and stuff, and saying it's a free world. We got to be able to do this stuff, which is what leads to the very problem that we see, the main problem in this world, pedophilia. It's disgusting. Disgusting. And with that, that's the end of my presentation. We're going to open the board for any discussion that the guys want to have. I see Danielle is taking off for a minute. Hopefully he's still around listening. But what do you got to say, John? I appreciate you coming up again today.
Yeah, Keith, thanks for this this piece. This is really good. This just exposes our system, which we all know exists, but I don't think anyone understands just how sinister one party is. I mean, we have evidence. We have China. We have Clintons. We have. I mean, I was into this in the 90s with the Filegate and the Chinagate and all that. I mean, this party is really hurting our country for whatever it's worth. I mean, maybe it's not even worth saving the government, but the fact is they're still hurting America. It's just seditious. I can't believe it.
Yep. Well, people better start believing it, because it's where'd it go? Fiery Voice. I see it as a good cop, bad cop play. That's what the bipartisan is all about. You got two parties, and they're both playing the same game for the same end goal. Period. What do you think, Danielle?
I think our current government needs to be completely abolished. There is no saving it. They turned it into a democracy. We're never supposed to be a democracy. We're supposed to be a republic. We need to go back to that.
Yep. And I think the truest way to the republic, folks, in case you didn't understand it, we're operating, or we're being administrated under a capitalism. That means if you learn how to contract, you can learn how to hold them to their contract, which is to say, leave me the fuck alone. I got my own private contract.
Yep.
That's
right.
True government. That's true government.
Yep. And president could mean that he's pressing our identity. Well, I don't need you to do that or pretend you're doing this or that. I don't need you at all. We don't even need this system. We need God. We need community. We need hard work, family. That's all we need. What the hell are they doing?
Absolutely. And it goes back to that structure of society that I discern from the scripture, that it's okay to have small communities where you can do trading and stuff. They're called trade centers. Okay. Entrepôts. It's not an import or export. It's an entrepôt. And entrepôt means entry port. Entry port, merely where people can enter into commerce. Outside of that, you have your agricultural area where people live in the community doing their little gardens and farming. Beyond that, you have your agricultural fields where you have your flocks being tended. That's where your main wildlife is going to be, where your bears and stuff and wolves and coyotes and cougars, they're going to be preying on those flocks, where your gardens are going to be filled with your birds and insects and stuff like that, where some of those wild animals might come in, but they'll generally stay away. So in that structure, you have this community over here, you got another community over here, and those are all foreign communities that might have their own economical or ecological structures providing different products and goods. So now you can have sojourners from this community in the corporate entrepot structure that are commercial traders. They can bring some of their wares that they get from their local communities and take them to the other communities. That's the international trading. That's what I see in the scriptures. We're not supposed to have these big conglomerate scabs of concrete. These are way too big. This is placating more to a larger international venue rather than the local community, which is where everything extends from. The industrial sharing.
Jesus Christ, anarchist.
Yes.
Do the words or do the letters. Thank you.
Yep. And Ark Christ.
He was just for what it's worth. No rulers, no man-made rulers, no written laws, just natural laws. Community. That's where it ends.
Yep. The light is in the people. The light is in the people. All right. Well, I think we had a good show today. What do you got on your mind, Danielle? I see you wanting to say something.
I think we need a tar and feather every single person in office and exile them and just start over and put in people who actually have the capacity to not only to think, but to feel.
Yep. Suspicious skepticism says, yeah, too big to fail. Where have I heard that before? Yeah, that's what they think. And that's what I was saying earlier. 380 million people on this country, on this continent, this United States. And they ain't got near that many people. They got maybe 1.5 million in government, military, police, and all of that. 1.5 million, I think. I'd have to look it up to be sure, but I think that's a pretty close enumeration there as to the ratio. And so if they think they really have power, it's only because the people believe it in their fear. Once the people start waking up enough and come out of that fear and realize it, ain't nothing going to hold them back. Never has. Again, throughout the millennia, not one government has ever survived. Not one.
No, that's not true. If you look at Rome divided into two, West and East. West fell. East converted and consolidated into what is now called the Vatican, which is located in the Holy See. That is still Rome.
Okay, but that is not a government.
It went underground, right?
It is its own government.
No. The Vatican is a commercial center. The Vatican is a commercial center of the International Forum. I assure you, brother, they are not a government.
They are a government.
No. They govern themselves. I'll agree. They govern themselves. But they are not a government in the aspect of government we see today over people. They are a government of their own corporation. Again, it's a commercial center. I assure you, Danielle.
So, to shed some more light, the king, or now king, the king of England technically doesn't own or rule over the people. He has to answer and do what the Pope says. That is a form of
contract. contract.
Yeah, it's a form of
They're under
government.
contract, right?
Yeah, it's not government. It's contracting. I went over this last night. Royal Warrant Holders Association.
Yep.
They gave all the land and ownership to the Vatican. They own it.
No.
Now they dictate.
No, that scripture says the land is mine and shall not be sold forever. Again, that's a fiction.
That's besides the point.
No, it's not. No, it's not. That's the biggest thing that keeps people believing what is not true. Come on, Danielle. I know you're smarter than this, brother.
Well, they are governing. It's just a question of to what capacity and to what extent. And that, he's technically right, but I think
in my opinion, the entire extent is the entire world. I say about 98% of all countries have to answer to the Vatican.
If they wish to, through entities.
Right, through entities, because it's the commercial center. The Vatican, when a nation becomes when a developing nation gets to a certain point and is able to enter into the monetary system with its own monetary definition, its own ISO, the Vatican is the one that gives them the black book with a number on it. As a matter
when
of
the Vatican conquered England in 1511 AD or around there, the lands was never given back to the people. It was still under ownership. And that's what people did back then when they conquered. When they sent an invading army, they controlled the territory until another invading army that was stronger removed them. That has yet to happen in.
So do they own it or control it?
Both.
No. They can't own the land, brother. They can only own the documentation that poses that they own the land.
I agree, but yet at the same time, they hold all the power because only 1% of the people know this relative information that you're saying that how they don't own it. Yes, but to 99% of people,
they're all agree
information. So they to the world, it is owned. That is what I'm trying to relay.
Right. Yes, and that's where I say it's because the people believe it and they fear it to be true. That's the only reason.
And since they have all the power and all the governments backing them, it's either do what they say or die.
Yep, and Scripture again tells us, "Yea, ye shall even hate your own body, your own life. For if you do not walk and sacrifice your life like Christ did, then you are not like Christ, and you did not follow the way of Christ." So, anyway. Well, go ahead. If you got something else to say, I'm going to keep going, brother.
And then if you take, never mind, I got a customer.
All right. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and cut it for today. I do want to remind everybody. I mentioned Frank Trump earlier. I think I made a mistake. I think it was Fred Trump, and Fred Trump is the one that had the toothbrush mustache. Right, had the toothbrush mustache just like Charlie Chaplin and Hitler. There were many other people in history that had a toothbrush mustache, and I just wanted to mention that somebody mentioned yesterday. I won't say who, but they were sitting there running their mouth about how this guy has this problem and this guy has this problem, this guy has this problem, and Wizard's problem is he needs to shave that dirty mustache off. So if that's the only problem that he saw, then first of all, it's not my problem. Second of all, if it's his problem, then maybe he should do something about it. Maybe he should come try to shave it off.
Looks good to me.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. We'll keep going. I was just telling him about Fred Trump and the toothbrush mustache. It's not just Charlie Chaplin and Hitler. And so it's just a reminder, Fred Trump was the Trump guy that wore the toothbrush mustache. And you know, consequently or coincidentally, you know what Donald Trump's middle name is, guys?
John.
Christ.
I thought it was John.
That's what he puts out to the public. His true middle name is Donald Christ Trump.
Wow.
So think about that.
Why
So
would
what do you
he-
got, Danielle?
That's good.
I was going to say that if you look at the structures of how the buildings were also built themselves, it tells a whole different story. The shape of the Vatican, if you go to Google Maps, look at a 33-degree angle, the shape of the Vatican itself is a pregnant snake that's wearing a crown, and where it's pregnant, it's anatomically correct, and where they mate, there's an obelisk, which is also a representation of the devil's penis being inserted into his own self. And then you also have, from coming off from it, another body of that's the shape of a serpent, and that's called Audience Hall. And if you look at the Audience Hall, where the Pope speaks from, that room is also in the shape of a serpent as well.
Oh wow, I have to check into that.
I've been thinking about making a video about all that.
Yeah, you should do that. You should. That'd be interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, again, I'd like to thank everybody for your support. Thanks for coming up on panel, guys. I always appreciate that. It helps the show go a little bit better and gives it other objective views other than just my running my mouth and babbling. So again, I appreciate it. And with that, we are done for today. I will be back tonight, I think. I'm not sure yet. I've got all these windows. I got like 19 windows going on immigration, education, and Americans and stuff. So there's something I've got working up that I want to do tonight as it relates to native. So be looking for that. If it's not tonight, it'll be tomorrow. But like I said, there's 19 windows I've got open, and it's almost all codes. So it may be tomorrow. Look for it tonight, but it may be tomorrow because it's probably going to be a few hours. So in the meantime, again, thank everybody. Hit the like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. There's PayPal link down there for anybody who wants to share some love. Always appreciated. And then y'all know I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back. And that's to say I don't care if you hate me. So may God bless you and have a good night, guys. We'll see everybody later.
Sure.